Warning! Kinda Murdery contains adult themes, explicit language, and descriptions of violence. It is not suitable for anyone, and we recommend you stop listening now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Kinda Murdery, a true crime podcast that's mostly about murder, and always about the strange and compelling stories that arise when the path less traveled twists to darkness, and those who walk its shadows surrender to violence and moral corruption. We have a perilous journey ahead, so thank you for lending me your courage and good company. I'm Zevon Odelberg, and this is Kinda Murdery, coming to you freshly pressed and piping hot from rainy San Diego, California. You know, just the other day, my daughter Daisy told me about a viral TikTok craze that some of you may have heard of. It's happening now, the dancing Serbian woman. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and don't feel bad because neither did I until 2 days ago, the dancing Serbian woman is a real-life urban legend like Slender Man or Momo, a sort of flesh and blood boogie woman. Actually funny to call her a boogie woman because she dances. So here's the deal. There's this woman, allegedly, in Serbia. She's dressed basically in black and white stripes, a long skirt, a cardigan, and a babushka headscarf. And you might see her standing on a street corner with her arms in a T, like someone being crucified, for lack of a better way to describe it. And she does this shuffling dance step with her back to you and her arms out. If you see her, make sure she doesn't notice you because she has a knife, and if she does notice you, she will immediately sprint at you. And if you can't evade her, which you probably can't because you'll be surprised, she will stab you to death with the knife. Seeing you see her is the only provocation she requires to murder. Alternatively, some people say she'll kill you if you refuse to dance with her. But according to most of what I've come across, seeing you at all is the only sin required for the dancing Serbian woman to immediately resort to sprinting, swift, and brutal butcher knife murder. Now, these videos are all over TikTok, and they range from obviously a couple kids pulling a prank, or sad middle-aged men pulling a prank, to so real that it's downright bone-chilling. These videos scared the bejesus out of Daisy, and she described them to me as a, quote, real-life creepypasta, unquote, which is on point. Perhaps unsurprisingly, we've canceled our upcoming spring break trip to Serbia. I kid. Please, visit the beautiful country of Serbia. I don't want their tourism board coming after me. But my point is, when I first sat down to research this episode, I, out of pure fatherly curiosity, did a Google search for dancing Serbian woman. Check out the Kinda Murdery TikTok account at Kinda Murdery if you'd like to watch the dancing Serbian woman video. I'll also post a link to it in the show notes. So when I searched for dancing Serbian woman, that led me to the story of the Witch of Vladimirovac. I'll post pictures of her to social media as well. She was a real-life person who dressed exactly like a Halloween witch, which leads me to believe that Eastern Europe is responsible for some of our most enduring horror myths. I mean, that's not the only thing that leads me to believe that. We've got Count Dracula, werewolves, etc., etc. I'm getting off point here. But check out at Kinda Murdery on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, and you will see pictures of the Witch of Vladimirovac. Particular appreciation goes to weird-history-facts.com for helping me put this episode together. As always, my sources are in the show notes. Now, the Witch of Vladimirovac was a real person. There's no question about it. She's in the newspaper. She's in court records. Unlike the dancing lady of Serbia, there is no urban legend here. She was a real person who lived in the latter part of the 1930s in the former kingdom of Yugoslavia. And she was, with all likelihood, the oldest serial killer in human history, and she may, in fact, have been one of history's most prolific, possibly even the most prolific serial killer ever, racking up a kill count of at least 50, and possibly as many as 150 victims, despite doing much of her killing between the ages of 70 and 92. And, in the course of all that murder, she accumulated a purportedly vast, and I mean vast, fortune. So, to any ageists out there, you're wrong. Obviously, there are so many things an elderly person can do even better than a youngster, and apparently, serial murder is one of them. And if any of that piques your interest, then I suggest that you put your personal items underneath the seat in front of you. Stow your carry-on in the overhead compartment. Let go of the worries of the day, but be sure your seatbelt is fastened. There's turbulence expected ahead. Kinda Murderies, The Witch of Vladimirovac, Satanic Pacts, and the impressive kill count of Baba Anujka starts now. She was known by many names: the Banat Witch, the Witch of Vladimirovac, Little Mother Anujka, Anna Pistova, Anujka de Pashtanja, Anjuka D, or Anjuka di Pistonia, all depending on the English translations of her Serbo-Croatian name. But she was born Anna Draxin, or Draxin, if you prefer the anglicized version, but she was commonly known by all as Baba Anujka, which translates to Grandmother Annie. And for reasons I can't explain, for some reason to me, and perhaps it's simply because it's in my native language, but Grandmother Annie, for all its banality, is the most terrifying name of all. Behind the facade of the sweet old lady, there lurked a terrible secret. Baba Anujka was the first and the most prolific of the former Yugoslavia's serial killers, and she was probably also among the world's most prolific. She may have even been the most prolific, full stop. Although her greatest notoriety came after almost a century of walking this earth, let's take a moment to talk about Anna Draxin's early life. Anna was born in 1838, 1836 according to her own testimony, although on trial for murder in her 90s, she clearly had a vested interest in being even older than she was, so let's go with 1838. She was born in 1838 in Romania to a rich cattleman's family. The family moved to a small town named Vladimirovac, currently in Serbia, in 1849. I say currently in Serbia because, at the time, Vladimirovac was part of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Anna went to private school in Pančevo, mixing with children from other rich families, a luxury that was not afforded to many other women at the time. She studied chemistry and spoke 5 languages. So clearly we're dealing with a woman of impressive intellect here. At the age of 20, Anna fell in love with an Austrian military officer that broke her heart and gave her syphilis. Given that many of her victims later in life were men who were purported to be abusive or at least extremely unpleasant by Anna's accomplices, usually the men's wives, it's possible that being heartbroken and infected with syphilis at such a young age by a cad of an Austrian military officer was the origin story of Baba Anujka, the serial killer. Either way, it seems that this tragic turn in her young life clearly played a part in both making Anna into a misanthrope and inspiring her to devote her life and time to the study of medicine and chemistry, likely to cure herself of syphilis at first and then later because she excelled at it. An Eastern European woman who spoke 5 languages and taught herself chemistry in 1858. I think it's fairly clear that we're dealing with a genius-level intellect here. So at age 20, she was heartbroken and pox-infected by the Austrian military officer, but she apparently found a way to cure herself and years later would go on to marry a much older man, a landowner by the name of Pistov, and thus she became Anna di Pistonia, which not only rhymes, but I believe translates to Anna, the wife of Pistov. And if pissed off is at all an accurate pronunciation of that surname, well then Anna certainly was, but we hope that's not foreshadowing that her new husband would turn out to be a furious brute with anger management issues. And indeed, it seems that he was not. The marriage was, by all accounts, a happy one. Anna bore 11 children, but only one of them survived to adulthood. My God, that's an impressive amount of tragedy there. The son who did survive would become a successful merchant in Vladimirovac. More on that later. Anna's husband died after 20 years of marriage, and she continued to pursue her studies of chemistry. The freedoms of widowhood, combined with her genius-level big brain, led Baba Anujka to become an accomplished herbalist and chemist, and she had a reputation as a healer, or as a witch, according to different accounts. Now, to be fair to Anna, it was common at that time in human history for any woman with 2 nickels to rub together and an education, or even just autonomy, to be accused of witchcraft. That said, witch was a professional image that Anna very much cultivated intentionally. Also, it should be said that witchcraft was a trade that was not uncommon in Yugoslavia at the time, when witch doctors had legally registered shops and paid taxes for explicitly practicing witchcraft. So, in Yugoslavia in the 1800s and even the early 1900s, the title of witch did not carry the same inherent evil that it does in American culture and folklore. It's worth noting that Anna's son, the successful merchant, kept an accounting book with the names of all of Anna's customers. And given that Anna's principal business would eventually become murder, it seems fairly safe to assume that this accounting book was in fact a lucrative blackmail file. But for many decades, Anna's identity as a serial murderer was hidden from light, and perhaps it took many decades to develop, although the historical record suggests that she didn't waste much time getting down to killing. For over 50 years, Baba Anujka sold a mixture of concoctions and medicines that she made in her lab. Some of them were love potions, and some were known as magic water, or in some cases, the devil's water, or bitter water. Vladimirovac. That's my terrible attempt at Yugoslavian there. Vladimirovac, bitter water. Some of these potions she sold to soldiers, and the potion would make them ill enough to escape the military service. But her specialty was magical water, or love potions, and these contained small quantities of plant toxins mixed with mercury and arsenic. They were especially popular with married women who had problems at home. Clearly, Baba Anujka was not without a sense of humorous irony, given that her love potions were in fact used to poison men rather than cause them to fall in love. When a woman came to Baba Anujka for one of her potions, the witch would ask her clients things along the lines of, how heavy or how big is the problem? Which really meant, how heavy is the person, or how much does he weigh? Based on this information, she would prepare her magical water and was able to predict with a surprising degree of accuracy the day when the person for whom her water was intended would die. According to the confessions of Baba Anujka's many confederates, the person for whom the potion was prepared would die in the greatest of agony. And the fact that she always dosed the amount of poison exactly according to the body weight of the person for whom it was intended speaks volumes about her skill in poisoning. According to witness accounts, there was also a magic ritual involved in the process before she could hand over the magical water. Her clients were tasked with bringing 1 black hen and 1 white hen, a bag of ashes, trisha, which is another name for wild arugula or wall rocket, basil, and incense. In the mysterious silence of her dark room and in the smoke of the incense, she would scatter the ashes around her, whispering some arcane and enigmatic words. In the end, she would prepare a bottle filled with clean water. Finally, she would take a small bell and ring it 3 times. This would signify that the deal with the devil was done. Baba Anujka charged her clients between 2,000 and 10,000 Yugoslav dinars, which was a lot of money at the time. In fact, still a lot of money now. In 1929, when Grandmother Annie was finally put on trial for murder, a single dinar was worth about 1.76 cents, which means she was charging between $35 and $176 for her murder potions. And she killed between 50 and 150 people. She also reportedly sold herbal remedies, charms, talismans, and abortion elixirs for unwanted pregnancies. But if we look just at her income off of murder potions, at the low end, if she killed 50 people and charged $35 a person, she made $1,750. At the high end, if she killed 150 people and charged $176 a person, then she made $26,400. And her poisoning career likely began sometime after the death of her husband in the 1880s. $26,400 in 1880 is the equivalent of $774,000 today. In 1929, it's the equivalent of $462,000. But remember, that's just the murder money. She had various other income streams. In fact, it seems very nearly accurate to call Baba Anujka the original Martha Stewart of witch murder. She had many accomplices, especially the families and wives of her victims, since they themselves ordered the deaths of their loved ones, and generally refused investigations and autopsies, so the deaths remained a mystery. And remember, talking about the wealth that Baba Anujka generated, she made all that money just off the potions themselves, and meanwhile, her son kept records of every client. So, while there's no historical proof or evidence for this, I think it's a fairly safe assumption that she made a lot of money off of blackmail as well. Or perhaps he did, and could have even if his mother's own code forbade it. Perhaps blackmail was the foundation of his success as a merchant, and there's support for that as well, at least for the likelihood of it. By 1920, Baba Anujka's 2 potions, that's one that just made you violently ill in order to get out of things like military service, and the other that actually murdered, her 2 potions became so popular that by 1920, Grandmother Annie hired an actual agent. Can you believe that? A murder agent named Lubina Malenkoff, who helped to locate clients and get them to the witch's house. Lubina and her associates would travel around the Banat region, visit villages, and look for places where there was discord and disease. They would then recommend Baba Anujka's devil water that could solve all of the villagers' problems. They were literally traveling murder salesmen. Word spread across Banat to the farthest corners of the region, and people came from all over for advice. Anujka treated people for insanity, dementia, and other ailments. And, no matter what her assessment, she always looked to extract as much money as possible from her clientele. Other than Lubina Malenkoff, some of Anujka's other accomplices include Danica Stoyek, Olga Sturza, the couple Sima and Sofia Mamarov, who were later accused of poisoning Nikola Mamarov and his 16-year-old granddaughter. As I mentioned earlier when discussing the wealth she accumulated, Baba Anujka is said to have killed between 50 and 150 people, mostly men. Eventually, the police from Pozarovec received an anonymous letter accusing her of various crimes. She was first arrested in 1914. This would have been after likely 35 some odd years of murder. She was arrested in 1914, but she was acquitted. She would be arrested again on May 15, 1928, at the age of 90, and it was this arrest that would lead to her trial. Baba Anujka seemed to believe that she was not doing any bad deed, but rather simply helping people in need. She claimed that she knew medicine better than any doctor and that every medicine she gave helped, saying, "I am a benefactor to the poor and ignorant world." Following her arrest in 1928, the crown prosecutor in the small Yugoslavian town of Pachevo, in the then Kingdom of Yugoslavia, would officially disagree. And I'd ask you to please rejoin me this Thursday for part 2 of Kinda Murdery's The Witch of Vladimirovac, Satanic Pacts, and the impressive kill count of Baba Anujka, where we'll cover Grandmother Annie's very public and sensational murder trial. Now, before I go, I want to remind you, as I often nearly always do, of the free 3-digit lifeline number 988 that you can call for free anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to receive immediate counseling for substance use, mental health, or suicidal thoughts. So if you find yourself in crisis, please do call 988. Program it into your phone right now. Get the help you need. And please always do remember that the world is a better place with you in it. You are loved, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. Now, if you aren't in crisis and you'd just like to connect with someone, don't hesitate to reach out to me, kindamurdery@gmail.com, at Kinda Murdery on all social media. You can also call the Kinda Murdery hotline, 888-MURDERY. That's 888-687-3379, or 888-MURDER, the letter Y. And everybody, please do call Kinda Murdery and tell me your Kinda Murdery story, which doesn't have to actually be about murder. Tell me your Kinda Murdery story so that I can share it with the community and use it to inspire an episode of Kinda Murdery. Also, as you know, I have cerebral palsy, and if you are a disabled person and would like to share a story about your particular life and challenges, I'd love to hear that. And you don't have to be disabled. Really, anybody with a unique life and set of challenges, which really we all have. I invite you all to share your stories so that I can share them with the community. Because, again, as I very often, nearly always say, it's my belief that by sharing our stories, by sharing with others life experiences that they may not consider, that may seem very foreign to them. Wow, did you hear my voice crack there? That was something else. I'm 11 years old again, everybody. But by sharing our unique experiences, we can all become a little more real, a little more human to each other, and hopefully we can build empathy that way, which is something the world desperately needs. So please do share your stories however you like, kindamurdery@gmail.com, @kindamurdery on all social media, or you can call the Kinda Murdery hotline, 888-MURDERY, and tell me about what you're going through. And or also, please, tell me your Kinda Murdery story. I want to share it. And with that, thanks for being here. I'll see you Thursday. I'm Zevon Odelberg, and this has been Kinda Murdery.